Happy belated 4th of July, everybody. Welcome to the feature presentation. This is Matt, Sean, and Augie. And so with the Lone Ranger being out, I thought about doing a show on Gore Verbinski, but there wasn't enough to talk about for me. So we went with Johnny Depp's best friend, practically, Tim Burton, who we do have a lot to say about, at least I hope so. Probably one of the most, I don't want to say divisive, but people seem to either really love him or really hate him.
One of the most distinctive, I would say.
I think he's the closest thing to a Terry Gilliam that we have now.
A mainstream Terry Gilliam.
Yeah, or a really mainstream David Lynch.
Nice comparison.
Although I prefer David Lynch. Before anyone attacks me, just as far as me, I don't know about you guys. Burton's made some stuff I love. He's made some stuff that I'm like, and he's made some stuff I've hated.
I haven't seen all of Burton's films, but I've liked most of them. I say, repeat, most of them.
So let's start at the beginning, which would be Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Humble beginnings.
This is a film that, a lot of stuff, Burton for me, some of the stuff he's perfect at directing, as far as on paper, and then there's some stuff I go, no, this is one of the ones that would fall into the first category, because this film is perfectly suited for his sensibilities, although he doesn't define his style yet, but he sets up the groundwork. You get some really good production design, you get some good music. Did Danny Elfman do this?
I believe so.
And
I'll check.
that's another thing. Danny Elfman and Tim Burton have done almost every film together. Kind of like Johnny Depp. But
I was going to say, he's more attached at the hip to Danny Elfman than Johnny Depp.
very true. But basically, it's not my favorite Tim Burton film, but I think it's very enjoyable. It's a lot of fun. If you like the TV show, give this a look. And as a kid, there was a scene in this movie that used to freak the hell out of me.
It still freaks me out.
You know what I'm talking about, the large
I know
Marge
what
scene?
you're talking about.
Yeah.
Gets in the truck, and then they have this, she turns around, and I don't know what the hell it was. It was like a cartoon.
It was a stop motion, I think.
Yeah, or claymation.
Oh, and by the way, Danny Elfman did do the music.
He did. What a shock.
Yeah.
Yes.
But, yeah, that scene used to freak the hell out of me. Paul Rubens, his performance is very consistent with the television show. It's kind of hard to judge this as a film because I look at this as an extended TV episode.
Mm-hmm.
I got to answer the phone real quick, so why don't you guys keep talking?
Okay.
You can talk, Doggy, because...
Yeah.
Hello?
Pee-wee's Big Adventure is actually my only exposure ever to Pee-wee. I don't remember ever catching an episode of the show when I was young. I know I must have a hole in my heart somewhere. But what I saw was very entertaining. It's not one that I would go back to a lot. It was one that's kind of like, it feels like they were just kind of, came up with a lot of great and inventive ideas, and just, threw them together. But luckily these ideas were very inventive, enjoyable, and unique. And as Matt said, it's hard to dislike Paul Rubens. I mean, Pee-wee's an iconic character, and that shines through here. There's especially in an age in the modern movie age, with all these brooding and very serious and reluctant protagonists. It's very refreshing to see a protagonist that's the complete opposite, and it's just so unendingly full of optimism and just manic enthusiasm, pretty much. And while this doesn't have the gothic Tim Burton style, this is still, I think, very much a Tim Burton movie, because it very much has his penchant for the weirdness, the bizarre characters, little side details, and like visual ideas that don't seem entirely normal. They seem a little bit off kilter, which fits very well with just the whole stone tone and style of Pee-wee. So, but despite saying that, I wouldn't say I was laughing out loud while watching it, but it was very enjoyable and entertaining. So I would have to give it a 3 out of 4. I mean, I never grew up on the show, so this is my first exposure, and what I saw was very entertaining. You said you haven't seen Pee-wee, right? Sean?
Me? No.
Okay.
I'm back.
Well, you're back. Okay. We're on to Beetlejuice now.
All right.
I just gave my thoughts.
You guys finish your points, and then I'll jump in.
I just said everything. I gave my rating actually right when you came back.
What'd you give it?
3 out of 4.
Pee-wee's Big Adventure, I'd give a 3 out of 4. And Beetlejuice, for me, I think this is his first Burton movie, quote unquote, because it's very macabre, it's very dark humor, I want to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beetlejuice is the first, overtly Tim Burton movie.
And to me, this is a movie that is carried by Michael Keaton, even though he's only in it for 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And for
Really?
to me, I think this showed that he had the ability to play Batman because he could to show that he had some acting chops, because he only did like Mr. Mom and a couple of other things. This was the one that showed his range.
Yeah, Mr. Mom was kind of the reason why no one really wanted him to be Batman, but I agree. Like, this proves that he can do Batman because he's a diverse actor, which I think it's proved by this movie.
I like Alec Baldwin in this a lot. I like Alec Baldwin in almost anything. And Winona Ryder, I think.
Yep.
As someone who is a notorious defender of Winona Ryder, I didn't care for her much in this movie. But yeah, I think it's a lot of fun. It's not my favorite again, but it's certainly one that I can rewatch. If you haven't checked it out, give it a look. I'll give it a 3 out of 4. I think if Keaton was in it a little more, I'd go a little higher.
Sean, would you like to go?
Yeah, sure. Like Matt said, Michael Keaton he steals the show, and this is the first, I think, Burton film that really showed off his macabre style. It's not my favorite of his films, but I'll give it a 4 out of 5. And I think I agree with Matt. Maybe more of Keaton. I'm not so sure about this sequel they plan to do, but
it's not happening.
I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, you know Hollywood. They might do it. I mean, what was it, Dumb and Dumber? They've been trying to make.
They've been trying to make that for years, though.
But different movie, different directors.
Jim Carrey doesn't do sequels anyway.
Yeah, well, he did do Ace Ventura, but back to Burton.
That was before.
Jim Carrey could be Beetlejuice.
And they wouldn't need much makeup.
Yeah. I feel like I liked it a little bit more than you, Matt. I think that Keaton doesn't come in until the very end. I very much enjoyed the beginning 3/4 of it with just Gina Davis, Winona Ryder, and Alec Baldwin. It felt like, I'm trying to think. It was much more focused on their the dark humor, but not visual dark humor like Burton usually does. It was more
scripting wise.
Exactly, more witty interplay, which I found really enjoyable and really funny. I thought the two of them had great chemistry together. But then, of course, when Michael Keaton comes in, the movie just goes absolutely bug nuts crazy. I can't say much about it because I've only seen it once, and it was a long time ago.
Likewise.
Winona Ryder, she wasn't really a problem for me, but she didn't stick out. I'd have to watch it again to give complete thought on that. I guess I'm a 3.5 out of 4, though.
Okay.
Because I think that before Keaton comes in, it's a little bit slight, so it was hanging around a 3 out of 4, but when he comes in, it kicks it up to that next part for a great finish.
Is the big one next?
Yeah. The big mountains of money.
So, 1989 marked the first appearance of Batman since the 60s in live action. Pretty much, basically, the story goes is that Frank Miller puts out The Dark Knight Returns, and all of a sudden, people wanted a darker Batman. So, they went to Tim Burton for some reason. I don't know the exact reason why. Probably because they liked his style. And they got Sam Hamm, who wrote an excellent screenplay. It's available online, I think. And it's a really good screenplay. But the problem is Burton cut almost a half or 2/3 of the script. So, regardless, we got Batman, and they cast Michael Keaton to backlash, I should say.
Yeah, pretty much.
Putting it mildly.
But they got Jack Nicholson, who at that time was pretty much money. And I think the reason this movie made so much money is because of Nicholson. I think if he wasn't in it, it wouldn't have had as much of an appeal to people outside of comic books. And originally, if you read the original choices to play Batman and the Joker, besides Michael Keaton, the two frontrunners were Bill Murray.
I can't believe that was happening.
Because they wanted... Originally, it was conceived as a comedy.
Yeah.
And then the other choice was Mel Gibson, who I thought would have been a very
Well,
good choice.
here's some other choices. Kevin Costner, Charlie Sheen, Tom Selleck, Pierce Brosnan.
Ooh, Pierce Brosnan would be a good one, actually.
Yeah, I agree with that one.
Love
What
to
was
see
the... Oh, God.
Batman.
Get away from me, you smell like Old Spice.
Right now. That's what it says.
And then the Joker, it was like Willem Dafoe and James Woods and Tim Curry.
Tim Kerr. David Bowie.
Yeah, David Bowie was in I think Willem Dafoe would have been perfect. He has the Joker face.
Yeah.
Because obviously he did Green Goblin and Spider-Man, but yeah.
And he's creepier without the mask.
Yeah.
So Batman came out and it made like $250 million, which at that time was almost unheard of. And going back now, for me, this movie dates horribly.
And in many ways it does.
Mostly the Prince soundtrack. This has a very weird soundtrack. But Danny Elfman's score, it's one of his best. The production design by Anton Furst is phenomenal. It really captured an 80s style of comics, especially Batman after Frank Miller's stuff. And Jack Nicholson to me is the Joker. He's the only actor who could play himself, and he's the Joker. Most of the dialogue that's really great goes to him because they wanted to showcase him. I could pretty much do his whole, all his lines verbatim because I've seen this movie I don't know how many times. Michael Keaton's a really good Batman. To me, he's still the best one because both as Bruce Wayne and Batman, they're two totally different people. And you wouldn't suspect him as Batman, which is the big key. Now, my problems with the movie, besides the soundtrack, are the original script was phenomenal. And a lot of the stuff that was cut would have made a lot more sense because it was more a straightforward telling of the Batman origin instead of becoming the Joker show. And the Joker does, I'm pretty sure Nicholson has twice as much screen time as Keaton does.
Well, he's top billed also.
Yeah, and to be quite honest with with Burton's Batman films, admittedly Keaton's Batman is not like the most important thing in it.
But compared to the sequel, he's in it a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll get to that going.
Kim Basinger is very weak. Even the character, it wasn't written too well, but Kim Basinger doesn't do anything for me. I do love the supporting cast. You got Billy D. Williams as Harvey Dent, which I wish he played Two-Face just to see what that would have been like. Whoever plays Knox, I don't know the actor's name. He's really funny in it. And of course, Bob the Goon, the greatest henchman of all time.
Knox, Robert Wool.
That's his name. I knew it was. I was about to say Robert Davi, and I was like, that doesn't sound right.
Don't forget the most incompetent Jim Gordon ever.
Oh, Pat Hingle. I'm pretty sure if he locked his keys out of his car, he would have had to call Batman. But it's a lot of fun, regardless. But the effects are still good, although that bat suit does not work. It looks great, but if anyone knows anything about Batman, he's one of the 3 greatest martial artists in comic books. And in this film, he can only do a front kick and use his gauntlets.
And he does the punch without looking from behind.
So, basically for me, and of course you have the Joker killing Batman's parents, which is a big FU to the comic book fans. But I don't look at this as a straightforward adaptation. I look at this as Tim Burton's take on Batman. So for me, it works. Although, despite being a Batman fan, I think if they pulled that in something like the Nolan movies, I think people would have every right to be, like, pissed. But I like the climax a lot. And the movie, Nicholson carries the movie, and I think that's all you need. Every movie needs a great villain, and he's one of my favorites of all time. Every time he says this town needs an enema, I'll do it. I recite the line. Although my favorite scene with him is the when he paints the museum, and there's the macabre painting, and he goes with the knife, and he's like, "I kind of like this one, Bob. Leave it."
Yeah.
And I gotta say, I really like the Joker costume a lot. I thought the makeup was well done with the permanent smile. But yeah, so overall, I'm sorry I'm going on too long, but this is, I think this is this was the movie that got me into movies.
I was gonna say, you're the Batman guy.
I'm the comic book guy, and to me, it's not a good Batman movie, but for what it is, it's a 3 out of 4 for me, just based on sheer enjoyment and Nicholson. If the soundtrack was a little bit better and some of the plot was a little bit more coherent, I'd probably give it a little bit higher. It's a lot of fun though.
Okay. And,
pretty much.
as for me,
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
okay. As for me, I agree with Matt. It has dated a bit, but yeah, Jack Nicholson obviously carries the show, and I agree. Michael Keaton is the best both Batman and Bruce Wayne combo, because over the Batman films, there's been some people who have, like, you had Val Kilmer in Batman Forever. He was a good Bruce Wayne, but not a good Batman.
I think he's the best Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, and with Christian Bale, he was also a good Bruce Wayne. Batman, it was fine, but just obviously Keaton has the best Batman.
So he talked like
Bruce
this.
Anyway, again, he's so unsuspecting. You would not believe he's Batman, unlike Christian Bale, admittedly. And the whole thing about the Joker being responsible for the death of Batman's parents, yeah, it's a big change to the comics. But I do like how it's set in the story, because Batman is responsible for dropping the Joker into the bad chemicals that gives him his permanent smile. So that gives him good reason to not like each other, obviously, because the Joker killed Batman's parents, and the Batman made Joker who he is today. It's the best of the original 4 Batman films before Nolan took over. I'll give it a 4.5 out of 5.
Pretty much, I'm not sure what to add. Not because you guys hit all the points, but because I'm pretty much exactly in line where you are, Matt. Kim Basinger is extremely bland. Jack Nicholson gets a lot of great quotes. I'm not as bothered by the Joker change in the origin, because it makes sense within what the movie establishes
Within
in
the
itself.
context.
Yeah, it doesn't betray anything within its own established universe. I would only add that the movie, it is one of those cases of style over substance, but because of how just incredibly imaginative the style is, especially the fantastic production design, as you said, and also my favorite Batmobile from all movie versions of Batman.
I love the Batmobile.
Very entertaining, not entirely fully developed, so it's 3 out of 4.
I still think "You Ever Dance with the Devil in the Pale Moonlight" is the best quote from that movie.
I like when he's talking to Bob, he's like, "You are number one, a guy."
I guess I love the scene where he kills Jack Palance
Yes, that too.
because I can't stand Jack Palance.
Or the scene when he's still when he's still Jack Napier, and I forgot, he's like talking to one of the other, like, I don't know, some other gangster thug guy, and as he's like walking away, he does like a really, really subtle Joker laugh, like foreshadowing I was about to get kicked into the acid vat.
Yeah. I like his Joker laugh a lot, though.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the scene with the joy buzzer where he's talking to the skull.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, this movie, it borders on R.
Well, I'd argue the next one is even worse at that.
But there's one in between, isn't there?
Is it?
I don't know. Who's got his filmography open?
Yeah, it's Edward Scissorhands.
His first collaboration with Johnny Depp. Augie, why don't you take this one?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I mean, Edward Scissorhands, I would argue, is, well, there is one other Tim Burton movie that I like more. This is certainly, I think, from his first 4 movies, his most fully envisioned and complete movie, and just like Beetlejuice, a true original. This is the beginning of a very long and fruitful collaboration with Johnny Depp, and this first collaboration yielded one of their best characters. Great cameo in the beginning by Vincent Price. It was a great addition because it really added to the movies, like, you know, sort of like, you know, it's a throwback a little bit to the monster movies of old, but it's not directly like paying homage to them. It's trying to like create its own thing, move things forward instead of looking back to the past.
I think it's more of a homage to like
unlike Beetlejuice, I think Winona Ryder is actually a highlight of this movie, and I really love the relationship that she has with Edward, because it's very unconventional. Because, you know, usually, you know, they fall in love and whatever. It's very, you
sappy,
romantic. This one it's much more of a friendly type relationship, which makes it stand out more, feel more unique, and it's what really makes Burton's style stand out more so, I think, than the first 3 movies, is that not only does he have the dark Gothic style that typifies most of his work, but he also blends it with that hyper-realized, like, 50s suburbia feel, that it creates, like, a nice juxtaposition, and shows how, you know, Edward doesn't really belong in this world. It creates a fish out of water scenario without it being like this gigantic, obvious, like, it doesn't have like the obvious jokes all the time that you would expect from this.
Another great score by Danny Elfman.
Okay. I mean, after about 5 other movies, we're going to sound like a broken record with the Danny Elfman callbacks, but yes, this is one of his better ones. I think I would argue that while Batman has a better main theme, I like this overall score more.
I'd agree with that, yeah. I also want to say a very uncharacteristic performance by Anthony Michael Hall.
Oh, yeah, isn't he the
He's the villain. He's the villain, basically.
That's right. Yeah. I always forget he's in the movie.
I do, too, because I can't tell that's him.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not Anthony Michael Hall.
I mean, like,
It's like
after playing like nerds in John Hughes movies, he suddenly becomes the villain.
It's like every movie he made after the John Hughes movies, he's like a completely different person.
Well, he was on drugs at the time, wasn't he? He got kicked off of SNL for doing drugs.
Maybe he was hanging out with
Robert Downey Jr. He was hanging out with Robert Downey Jr.
Well, yeah.
Because they all are the Rat Pack.
And yeah, it's got a lot of heart, great characters, great visuals, great story. I have to watch it again to see if I would give it a 4 out of 4. Right now, I just have to reluctantly go with a 3.5 out of 4. I can't remember why. And I feel like it had something to do with the ending, but I can't remember.
I don't want to say the ending's a cop-out, but I felt like it was a little anticlimactic. Like, it should have had a better payoff.
Yeah, maybe.
But I think you touched on everything. I'm going to add that I look at this more as like it's a true original fairy tale. At a time where people weren't making a lot of films like this. There was a tendency in the early 90s to make a lot of films that were very hyper-realistic, and fantasy was kind of died out once the never-ending story ended. Get it? That was not intentional, I swear to God. But and I think this came along at a perfect time because it reinvigorated fantasy. And at this time, it was my favorite Burton movie. It's my third favorite now. And for Johnny Depp, I think for a guy who's always known to play very quirky caricatures, I think this one might be one of his best because it's not so reliant on being, what's the right word? Because if you look at Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas or Jack Sparrow, they're very caricatures. They're caricatures. This one, I got the sense it was an actual performance, and that's why I like it so much. It's not my favorite collaboration between the two, and in fact, it's probably my favorite is probably not the one Augie's is, but we'll find out later. I'll give it a 3.5 out of 4. I haven't seen it in, years. I certainly want to give it another look.
And I give it. I'm going to give it another look. But right now, I'd say this is definitely one of Burton's best, and I think one of Depp's best performances. I think this is one of definitely their best collaborations. 4 out of 5. I need to see the movie again.
So his next film was, because Batman was such a huge hit, they wanted a sequel, but Burton said he didn't want to do it. So they said, we're going to give you full creative control. And apparently that was too good to pass up. So we got Batman Returns. And it's really a different movie than the first one. It feels like it's in a totally different universe. But for me, I think this might be one of my least favorite Burton films. As I said before, I don't look at this as a Batman film. I look at these as Tim Burton's take. But there's a point in this movie to me that I feel like it was more an exercise in style above anything else. Speaking of which, the production design by Bo Welch. I love the visual look of this film. The whites on blacks. The winter, I think, visually it's outstanding. I think it might be my favorite visuals of the 4 Burton Schumachers. But it's a very, very dark movie. It doesn't fit. Fit with the first one. And I felt like the Penguin character, that was just an excuse to do something grotesque. And Danny DeVito, I don't think he gives a good performance because it's very one note. He's just very angry and foul-mouthed. It's like you're supposed to feel sorry for him, but he's this rude, not a likable character. Every character in this movie is unlikable. I don't like any of them, so when they die, I don't care. I will say Michelle Pfeiffer is terrific. She's still the best Catwoman we've ever got. I love the costume for her, although it does look like trash bags that were just sewn together. She certainly got all the mannerisms down. She's terrific. Michael Keaton, he is really reduced to a third banana in this movie. And it's not a Batman movie at all. It's just, this is the one where the villains overshadow the hero the most out of the first 4. And you got some unnecessary characters like Christopher Walken. There's no need for him in this movie because he's Christopher Walken. And it's a character who, by the way, the name is taken from the actor who played Nosferatu, which is a nice touch. I mentioned this movie being too dark. And I normally don't say that, but when you're aiming this movie more towards a kid audience, you got some stuff in there that I question. You got a scene where Penguin... You got a scene where Penguin bites a guy's nose for no reason. You got a lot of bad sex puns, and I mean they're funny, but they don't fit in a Batman movie.
I know McDonald's canceled the Happy Meal to put that toy line because of how dark it was.
I can't exactly blame them. I mean, You got another charred skeleton when he finds Christopher Walken's body. You got basically Penguin's whole look, and to me, the movie just doesn't come together. Penguin and Catwoman, they're not even characters. They're just very one note. Although Pfeiffer, she's really fun to watch. It's just one of those things to where I wish they gave her more to do. Another great score by Danny Elfman. I'm sorry we keep repeating it, but the man knows what he's
What do
doing.
you expect when we're talking about Tim Burton?
Yeah.
I wish I could give it higher than what I'm going to give it, but for me, it doesn't work at all. And it's a 1.5 out of 4. The visuals and Michelle Pfeiffer are the saving graces, but I feel like giving Burton creative control was a huge mistake. And you had, what's his name, who wrote Heathers, who wrote the screenplay.
Daniel Waters.
Which is also why I think I was kind of disappointed by it. And penguins with rocket launchers. Why?
Okay. Yeah, that is, I mean, there are certainly other elements, but that is definitely a point where I'm like, alright, really?
Adam West would look at
I
that
can
shit
only
and be
take
like, you
so
kidding
much
me?
weirdness. And just general, I don't know. I mean, at that point, you could just say general stupidity. But it is a big mess in many ways. I've seen the movie probably at least 3 or 4 times in the past. I never got the feeling that, I don't know, I never thought to myself, like, wow, where's Batman in this? Maybe I was just so distracted by Michelle Pfeiffer. Yeah, it's hard to judge Danny DeVito because it's just so.
It's the same. He doesn't have the charisma that Jack Nicholson has.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like that. Yeah, but it's not like the character is supposed to have charisma exactly. I mean, he's pretty much this giant bloat of black bile walking around. Yeah. I'm trying to, I don't know, because like you make so many great points, but at the same time, I know that I enjoy this movie on some level, and it does suffer from, even more so than the first movie, the style over substance stuff. I mean, personally, I think Christopher Walken is always a welcome addition to any movie, especially when you get other crazy people in this, like Michelle Pfeiffer, of course, who I think we can probably agree is easily the best thing about this movie. And it's interesting you mentioned Daniel Waters, because I think his Heathers type dark comedy really shows in this, especially in some of the dialogue and the puns, which they are very punny, but for me they were good and funny puns.
They're just not appropriate for a movie that you're marketing for kids.
Well, again,
he says, and I quote, "Just the pussy I've been looking for."
It's
I remember that scene when he keeps making all those sexual innuendos. You can see Cameron like, really? Are you saying all that?
Sounds like, "I'd like
really?
to fill her void" or something like that. I'm like,
yeah.
Like something like hot sex or something. I don't know.
But you get into tricky territory when you're comparing it to the marketing instead of what the film establishes. And I think the film establishes its own just out of left field weirdness, which is both, I think, it's positive and it's negative. It's definitely a movie at war with itself.
and it doesn't feel connected whatsoever to the '89 film. Like, you take out Batman, and they're two totally different movies. Like, Gotham doesn't even feel like the same place. And you have Penguin's circus group, which totally doesn't fit. And the ending kind of leaves me cold. Because the '89 film does have kind of a triumphant ending. It's like Batman's now the savior. This one, it's just like, Catwoman got her revenge. Penguin died, but we don't care, so...
That's the thing, the climatic moment
actually
really
survived being supposedly dead.
The 9 Lives thing was stupid.
when Michelle Pfeiffer electrocute kisses.
How about a kiss, Santa Claus?
Wait, but the whole 9 lives thing. She doesn't. It's just a line, though. It's not like she's actually like has 9 lives.
She kind of does. Rewatch the movie because
I mean,
there's points
I know
where
she gets revived after her, after Selena gets killed.
which
at the
was
beginning,
also
but, like,
ridiculous.
okay, no, I will, like, when I was younger, for some reason I just went with it, but when I really think about it, like, the cats just come out of fucking nowhere. And
If they made a reference, like, in Egyptian culture, cats were known as the givers of life.
But then you'd get Catwoman.
Very true. I'm just saying, some explanation could have been, like, because Max Schreck's sewage, they could have said that, like, they drank some of the sewage water.
Yeah, it's it's like a comparison. The cats in this movie are like the witch in Brave. They do something big and drastic, and then they just disappear and are never seen again.
And speaking of which, I love Christopher Walken's hair in this movie.
Despite my better judgment and the really, really dumb parts that come in with the Penguin Army at the end.
And Batman's the Punisher in this movie.
He is very aggressive.
Great use of the Wilhelm scream, though.
Like that one scene where he just sticks a dynamite into the one guy's gut and he just throws him out. He's just like, yeah, I killed you.
How could
So
you?
what?
I'm a woman. Sorry. I'm like, Batman wouldn't say sorry. If you're basing this off the Frank Miller Batman, the real Batman would have just hit her again. Eat floor, high fiber. There's some good lines, but there's some awful lines in this movie.
There's yeah.
It's all over the place. There's not a lot connecting it, but through that, there's some kind of method to its madness that I see, and most of it comes down to the really entertaining sexual chemistry between Keaton and Pfeiffer. So, because of them, give it a 2.5 out of 4.
Okay, and I think I'm going to be somehow the most positive, but for the record, I agree with your big problems too, like way too dark. Also, the thing about the Penguin, that's another drastic change from the comics, because in the comics, he was, the highly respected guy of class, even though, he's the bad guy, but this one's just despicable. So I don't know, I think Danny DeVito does good at that part, but again, it's a one-note character. Michelle Pfeiffer is obviously the best Catwoman. I'll give it like a 3 out of 5. I don't know what else to say, really.
And also, Penguin's plan gets a little convoluted. Because he's like, all right, first I want to kill the kids. Then I want to be mayor. Then I'm going to go back to killing the kids. Then I'm going to go back to just killing everybody.
Yeah. I'm just going to say this movie is strange.
Everyone? So his next movie, I know he didn't direct it, but can we just do Nightmare Before Christmas?
Yeah, and I was going to ask that, actually. Can we do that one, too?
So Nightmare Before Christmas, even though common belief, everyone thinks Tim Burton directed this, but it was directed by Henry Selick, who has gone on to do James and the Giant Peach and Coraline, which is a movie I love.
Don't forget Monkey Bone.
I've never seen Monkey Bone.
Don't see Monkey Bone ever.
Is it that bad?
It's pretty bad.
But so we got Nightmare Before Christmas, which really, to me, it's a Tim Burton movie. And
his fingerprints are all over this.
For my money, it's one of my favorite animated movies ever. Great characters, great conceptualization of a world where it's like all the different holidays. It gets dark, but it's still very accessible to kids. I love the songs in this movie. Once again, Danny Elfman. He even does the singing, if I'm not mistaken, for Jack.
Yeah, he's the singing voice for Jack, but the regular voice is
Chris Sarandon. Yep. I love the doctor that has the duck beak and the wheelchair. The 3 little demon kids have the best song in the movie. One of them voiced by Paul Rubens. And at 75 minutes, it flies by. And I think it's a lot of fun. I could pop it in anytime. I give it a 4 out of 4. I love it. I know it's not a Tim Burton movie, but I just felt we should touch on it.
Yeah, makes sense. And I agree with everything you said, Matt. 5 out of 5.
Yep. I'm pretty much, yeah, I'm right there with you. It may be a Henry Selick movie, but Tim Burton's touches in every single minute detail, the dark comedy, the production, visual style, everything. I mean, when you just look at the poster, like, you instantly think of Tim Burton with the curved hill, the jack-o'-lanterns everywhere, the moonlight in the background, everything. Yeah, great songs, great animation, great characters. 3.5 out of 4.
So what's next?
Probably our favorite one.
No, this is my second favorite, actually.
Okay. Well,
My first will surprise you. I think it will.
Well, Ed Wood is my favorite Tim Burton movie, and I didn't expect that because the first time I saw it, it was in my period when I was pretty much just watching everything possible, even if it wasn't on Netflix. So I watched a bad copy of it somewhere. But despite the fuzzy quality, I love the movie so much that I bought it on DVD, watched it again. I loved it even more. And the thing about this is, actually, this is coincidentally one of the few movies that Tim Burton did that wasn't scored by Danny Elfman. I can't remember who the actual
Howard
composer
Shore,
was.
I think. I'll check again.
That could be right.
I think it's the guy who did Lord of the Rings.
The thing about this is, and what makes it so enjoyable is, everyone talks about Martin Landau, and Martin Landau is absolutely fantastic. When you look at Martin Landau, he doesn't immediately strike you as looking like Bela Lugosi, but when you're watching him play it out, he gets the accent, everything. He gets the spirit of Bela Lugosi and what he was all about in his movies. And Johnny Depp, as usual, in his early Tim Burton work, is no slouch. He's more of the caricature type of Johnny Depp stuff than Edward Scissorhands, but because the movie is more of a comedy, really, and that was one that was unexpected because of how light and just kind of buoyant he is. I mean, despite the fact that Ed Wood is just, by most accounts, a really, really terrible and incompetent movie maker, you just want to root for the guy because he has so much passion.
That's the thing about this movie.
Enthusiasm. He just, every minute he has a new idea and he wants to put it in there, because he wants to see it realized on screen, his dreams come true. And it's really easy to root for the guy, especially in the scene where after he makes his first movie, the infamous Glenn or Glenda, he calls the movie executive to see how the test screening went, and it's just a one-sided conversation. He's like, "So, did you like the movie? Worst movie you ever saw?" "Well, promise my next one will be better." Hello.
Oh yeah, that's like you said, Augie. That's one of the great things about this movie is that even though obviously Ed Wood is known as one of the worst directors ever, it's not like directly. It's it celebrates him as well as notes. That he was one of the worst, but which is one of the best things about this movie. Really, is that it's not that what I just said.
Mm-hmm. And also, Tim Burton, rather than apply his usual dark gothic style, he instead opts to go for black and white, which is very fitting, of course, for this era, and especially the fact that Ed Wood was making black and white monster and horror movies. So, yes, it was Howard Shore. I just looked it up.
Yeah, I saw it too. I was going to bring that up.
Okay. Other highlights, Bill Murray as the very gay Bunny Breckenridge, because he's just always going around the movie like he doesn't really give a crap, but he's always got a very funny one-liner to say at the right moment. Also, I've never watched really Sex and the City, but I thought Sarah Jessica Parker was pretty good in this,
No, she
even though
was.
she kind of gets a thankless role. Really, she's kind of just the nagging wife, but I thought she does really well with it. Also, one of our favorite character actors, Jeffrey Jones, in there.
And also,
That's
Vincent
Griswold.
D'Onofrio has a cameo as Orson Welles.
That's right. And again, another person who you wouldn't quite immediately expect him to play Orson Welles, but just in that one scene, like, he gets the essence of Orson Welles so perfectly. And it's really a shame that this movie bombed when it came out, especially since, like I said before, in my opinion, it's my favorite Tim Burton movie. One of my favorite Johnny Depp performances. I give it a 4 out of 4.
I agree with everything you said. I want to add, it celebrates Ed Wood as much as it does make fun of him. And they're very careful with how they play that, because you root for the guy, although he makes these abysmal films. My favorite scene in the movie is when they're filming George the Animal Steel. He walks through the door, he smacks his head, and he goes, "Perfect, cut, roll that." And
Yep.
it's just a lot. It's a lot of fun. It's certainly a movie that if you want to go into a creative medium, you should watch it. And it's my second favorite Burton movie, and I'll explain what my favorite is later. It's a 4 out of 4. Should have gotten a Best Picture nomination, especially because Forrest Gump won that year.
We just had to put it.
Well, that's. Well,
Look at
we'll
those
save that for
first
another podcast.
Take a shot.
Although Martin
What?
Landau, my one issue with the movie, it was never reported Bela Lugosi swore like a sailor. And it's funny, but I thought it wasn't needed. Although it does have the great scene with Boris Karloff.
Karloff, sidekick, fuck you.
Karloff doesn't deserve to smell my shit.
God damn, it's cold. Don't worry, it'll warm up. Fuck you. You come in here.
Yeah, 4 out of 4 for me. It's my second favorite. It's a great movie.
Yes, it is. I do love the attention to detail, like acknowledging some of the odd moments of Ed Wood's films, like that scene where the one guy goes through the door and it keeps moving, and of course the black and white. This is definitely one of the Tim Burton's best films. And Martin Landau, of course, is terrific as Bela Lugosi. Well-deserved Oscar win. He won the Oscar, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Well-deserved there. Yeah, 4.5 out of 5. This is definitely one of his best.
Also won, Rick Baker won Best Makeup for Landau's makeup on him. Tournament to Bela Lugosi.
Well, Rick Baker is one of the best makeup artists.
Yes.
He is.
And it's a testament to the movie's credit that really the best thing about it is the relationship between Ed and Bella. And what could have really let the movie down when Lugosi leaves the picture about 20 minutes before it ends, they kind of make up for the fact that after that happens, we're watching Plan 9 from Outer Space be made, and as any movie fan knows, Plan 9 from Outer Space is one of the most infamous movies out there.
It's
and
the
to see
first movie that was so bad it's good.
Yeah. One of the definitive films of that category.
And to see that come together, even without Landau there, to bring Depp along with him is it's just a lot of fun.
But what's next?
Mars
That's
Attacks.
Mars Attack.
Tim Burton making his own B movie from the 50s.
Yes.
And I gotta say, this is it's not a good movie, but I think it's a lot of fun. As someone who loves 50s sci-fi movies, especially the cheesy ones, I think it really captures the look. First of all, I love the alien design in this movie. Very, 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 very well thought up, very well conceptualized. Great cast, top to bottom. You got Jack Nicholson playing two parts, and if he was president, I'd buy it. I love the scene where he's like, I want the people to know that they still have 2 out of the 3 branches of the government working for them, and that's not bad. Glenn Close, Annette Bening, Pierce Brosnan, Danny DeVito, Martin Short, Jack Black. I'm trying to think who else is in this. Rod Steiger. Just so many very well bit roles here and there. They get every kind of 50s stereotype possible. You got the president, the scientist, the rude gambler guy, the warlord general. And what kills the aliens? Folk music. Great touch. Now, I do think it's a little long. And not all the jokes hit. But Sarah Jessica Parker's in this too, and Michael J. Fox, I just remembered. But I think it's fun. You know, check your brain at the door. If you like sci-fi, I think you'll get a kick out of this movie. It's not good on a technical level, but for what it's trying to do, it's a lot of fun. I'd give it a 2.5 out of 4. If there was some more consistency with the jokes, and there's one performance I'm not a fan of, and that's Annette Bening. She got a little annoying, a little grating. But other than that, it's a lot of fun. And it's got Jack. What else do you need? Jack also plays the redneck casino owner.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know it was him at first.
They also have Michael J. Fox, Rod Steiger, Tom Jones, Lucas Haas.
Oh, I love Tom Jones in this movie. I love his cameo.
Pam Grier, Jordan Baker, Christina Applegate, Paul Winfield, Jack Black, and Frank Welker naturally is the voice of the Martians.
This is a really stacked cast. Yeah, that guy is just great at doing those kinds of sounds.
Well, he can't get anything else.
Yeah, whenever you need something that just does like a sound or one word,
Just contact him.
yeah, you get Frank Welker. If you need a dog sound, you'll get Frank Welker.
Yeah.
And I love the kills in this movie. When Glenn Close has the chandelier fall on her. And they have the disintegrating gun when they kill Congress.
I guess the reason why this one was a disappointment for me is because in Burton's previous movies, even in Batman Returns, at least I think, there were, even with all the bizarre weirdness there and the crazy, visuals and out there-ness, there was something there to grasp onto. Even in Batman Returns, there's Michelle Pfeiffer and Michael Keaton's chemistry together. But I didn't really get, I didn't have a center in this movie really to hold together. It felt like a lot thrown in there. Like we said, a lot of actors, which probably a few too many actors, in my opinion. There wasn't really anyone I could latch onto because it's just kind of jumping back and forth between all of them all over the place, even though Jack gets a lot of great, really funny lines. And I'm not a fan of the fact that it's not that the Martians are CGI, it's that the CGI really hasn't aged well, and they could have easily been done with makeup and prosthetics.
Yeah, Rick Baker said about it. If you look at Men in Black, what he did there.
Yeah, it's not like they're overly complicated, Martian designs or anything. I mean, they got giant brains, they got a dome over their head, and they look like they have a skull with big eyes. And I don't know, it seemed a bit too much like a shortcut, really. And the humor, I guess the reason why it feels hollow to me is because the humor is very hit and miss for me. With Jack, it's usually very funny. With some of the other characters, not always so much.
Danny DeVito.
Yeah.
If you want to conquer the world, you need lawyers.
That's one of the good ones. And because of that, it it doesn't really resonate for me, even as a manic, like, slapstick science fiction story. So it's a 2 out of 4 for me.
I haven't seen the movie in full, but from what I've seen, from what I saw, what you said is exactly what this film is. It's just cheesy fun. So I need to see the movie in full before I give a rating.
What's next?
One of your favorites, Sleepy Hollow.
This is one of my favorite Burton movies. It's not my favorite, but to me, even more so than the 50s sci-fi, Hammer is my bread and butter. Hammer movies are my favorite kind of horror movies, and Sleepy Hollow nails it. Whether it's the visual look, whether it's the very, very well done kills. I mean, they decapitate people left and right. One guy gets cut in half. And Johnny Depp, I like Johnny Depp as Ichabod Crane. He's very likable. And I like Christina Ricci. It's got another great cast. You got Michael Gambon, Ian McDiarmid, Christopher Lee, Martin Landau gets killed in the beginning, Miranda Richardson, and of course, who else are you going to get but Christopher Walken to play the Headless Horseman? With no dialogue. All he does is scream. He's got these sharp, pointy teeth. And I like the Headless Horseman design. I think they took a short story that you wouldn't think there's a lot there because Disney already did it, and they added a lot of really cool stuff. I like the mythos of the tree and the family and the flashback structure. It's got a great look to it, and for me, this is I think it's his most underrated movie personally. It's one that not a lot of people talk about, and I saw this when I was a little kid and it freaked the shit out of me. But now there's a couple scenes that make me gross. Like there's a scene where they rip open the tree and all the heads come out. But I love it. I think it's a lot of fun. It's great. 3.5 out of 4. Check it out. It's his most underrated movie for me. Great score. I don't know if it's Danny Elfman, but
I'm pretty sure it is. And voila, it is.
Nope, never mind.
This is the movie that Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula should have been. Because if you want to do a homage to Hammer, this is the way you do it.
And if you're going to do an homage, you get Christopher Lee to do a cameo role.
Yeah. My favorite kill of the whole movie is when Michael Gambon is in the church after he shoots Ian McDiarmid, and he's like yelling at all the townspeople, and all of a sudden, a picket fence comes through, stabs him in the chest, and he gets dragged outside, and then he gets his head cut off. And a lot of balls. They kill a kid in this movie.
Yeah.
And you don't see that in movies.
There's Richard Griffiths, the actor Richard Griffiths. He plays Uncle Vernon in the Harry Potter movies.
Rest in peace.
When he dies, doesn't his head spin on top of his body?
Yeah, it's kind of like a slapstick. Like it spins around a couple times and it comes right off.
I think that was my favorite one.
Or when Christopher Walken kisses Miranda Richardson.
Yeah.
I just remember like the Nostalgia Critics review when he mentions his family, and he has like Beavis, and who says, "Hey, baby, so like we gonna do it or something?"
Are we like gonna do it?
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm right there with you, Matt. Great style. The horror elements. It's not because a lot of times like Burton's movies are very dark, but usually I wouldn't characterize them as horror movies. Here, this one is definitely a true blue horror movie, and on pretty much most levels, it's still remains very tense and scary, even as it's slathering itself in buckets of blood. And Johnny Depp does once again a great job because, again, with Tim Burton, he creates a quirky character, but there's some he feels very human in his quirkiness and very believable in the eccentricities that he has, even when he has pretty much like a whole treasure chest of James Bond gadgets
He's
pull
Q. He's
out.
Q.
Yeah, yeah, he's Q as James Bond, pretty much.
Indeed.
I think the only issue that I remember having was, I guess I thought the ending was a bit anticlimactic, but
I don't think it was. I thought it ended on a happy note,
yeah,
and I was like, Hammer movies don't usually have happy endings. I mean, they kind of do, but there's like, it's like Dracula will return.
and with a story like the Headless Horseman, a happy ending doesn't entirely fit.
That's
exactly.
what keeps it from a 4 for me.
But yeah, because of that, still a very good movie. Holds up well. Great movie to watch around Halloween time. Give it a 3.5 out of 4.
Sean, have you seen it?
No. Next movie.
I own it. I own it. Why don't you come over sometime and watch it?
Yeah, sure, why not?
I'm not sure.
I also want to
I'm not
mention
sure
the
what
other
I'll
scene
talk
that
about
the other scene that used to freak the hell out of me is when Johnny Depp goes into the cave and there's the woman, and she turns around and there's no eyes.
Ooh, yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty good jump scare. And I hate jump scares, but that's how you do it right because of the atmosphere and the visual look of this movie. And I think
Oh, go ahead. Finish.
that was what I was just going to say.
Okay. Actually, I just remember also, unless it's Starship Troopers, I don't want to see Casper Van Dien in movies. That was another issue.
Hey, he gets cut in half, and it's awesome.
He does get a great death, yeah, but
And
he's no actor.
Who does the Horseman? Ray Park, because there's a scene where he takes off the swords and he does the Darth Maul flip.
Wait, what? The horse is the guy who plays Darth Maul in Phantom Menace?
And Toad.
Yeah.
Oh, wait,
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Walken's terrified of horses, so he didn't do any of the horse stunts.
huh. Never knew that. That is...
The next one.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
one.
Here we go to
Boy.
the one.
Sean, you haven't gone first yet. Why don't you go?
Goes on monkey.
Okay, well, this next movie is the... Oh, what? Oh, okay, this next movie is the remake of Planet of the Apes. I have not seen this movie in a long time, and I think I was aware at the time that it was not a lot of people like it. I thought it was just okay, but again, let me remind you, I have not seen it in a long time. But you know what? I can't really talk. I don't know what to say about this movie. That of course, the dumb ending, which makes no sense. But I'm gonna have to leave it to you guys because I have not seen this movie in a long time.
Yeah, the ending is a gigantic fuck you.
Yeah, because it was like, so like they stop the bad guy. Mark Wahlberg's character goes back to what he thinks is his home, but big surprise, the villain somehow managed to escape his prison and take over the world.
I wish they did like Spaceballs, but the Statue of Liberty.
Oh shit!
Oh
There goes the
shit!
planet.
There goes the planet.
That would have been I would have liked that ending on this movie.
Or Mark Wahlberg goes, "You maniacs! You blew it up!"
Except if he said it, he would be like, "You maniacs! You blew it! Why?"
Damn you!
Yeah, the problem with the ending is that it's such a blatant attempt to copy the shock effect of the original movie, and for about 3 seconds it does, because seeing the Lincoln Memorial with the ape head on it is pretty distinctive. But after you think about it, the whole ending doesn't make any logical sense at all, and it's so obvious that they leave it to be discussed and explained in the sequel, and they just don't
Would
bother
never
giving
happen.
crap about it making sense in this movie, that it just leaves you so cold. And here's the thing with Mark Wahlberg. Mark Wahlberg needs a director to pull something out of him. And while Tim Burton has worked with great actors, he's not a director who I see as someone who can pull a performance out of an okay actor. And this really shows, because Mark Wahlberg is very bland and very forgettable.
He's no
And
Charlton Heston.
Yeah, he's the definition of a blank slate hero. He you kind of go through the movie. You don't care about him. He just does stuff, But you don't really feel like you're going along with him on this journey and discovering everything. The people who do succeed are the side characters, particularly Helena Bonham Carter and Paul Giamatti Tim Roth, who is a fantastic villain.
I loved him in this.
Side note, he was cast in. He did this, but he did not do because of this. He did not do Snape in Harry Potter. By the way, I imagine how that would have turned out. Actually,
I could see him as Snape because that was J.K. Rowling's suggestion.
Yeah,
But we wouldn't have gotten Alan Rickman.
They got Alan Rickman and he's a well, not different podcast.
Despite the fact that the movie is routinely slammed, I think Tim Roth got away very easily because everyone, even the people who outright hate this movie, think he's great in it. So I think Roth came out fine because he's usually singled out, as the best thing in the movie.
And Helena Bonham Carter.
Yes.
This is the first movie she did with Burton, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, this was the first and many collaborations between them.
And they're worthy of being in a Planet of the Apes movie, but the movie doesn't feel like it's, aside from some good costume design, some neat designs in the Ape Village, it doesn't feel like a Tim Burton movie, and not in a good way, because he feels like he's just on autopilot here.
It's kind of like what happened with Terry Gilliam when he tried to do commercial stuff,
Yeah.
like Brothers Grimm. It doesn't feel like his style.
It doesn't feel like he has the inspiration to make something. Like, he doesn't feel like he has it in him to create a movie that we can become invested in. And it looks good. Some of the action scenes toward the end are fine, but on a story level and on a protagonist level, it really fails. It lacks the social commentary of the original movies, and because of that, it just ends up being just another ape action movie, really. Because I don't think it's outright, except for the ending, because it's never outright bad.
Wait, let me say my end. Let me give my rating before you give yours. I'm gonna say 2 out of 4.
That's mine too. Because aside from the ending, there's nothing in it before that makes me mad. Like there's never a point in the first 9/10 of it where I'm like, ah, damn, this is terrible. But once it gets to the ending, it brings it down from just a passable movie to a mediocre one.
Yeah, it's not all this is singled out as his worst. I don't think it is, but it's more. It's too commercial.
Yeah.
But I think Tim Roth and Helena Bonham Carter carry this movie on their backs. And sometimes that's what you need. You can outweigh a mediocre, bland lead with a really good supporting cast.
Yeah, that's happened many times before. Honestly, this movie for me is I forgot about it. So I say I give the equivalent of what a 2 out of 4 rating is for out of 5 rating.
So a 3 out of 5.
The reboot, Rise of Planet of the Apes, much better than this, but that's not Tim Burton. So next film,
which you guys haven't seen.
Nope,
I have not seen. So
I'll touch on Big Fish real quick. I think it's one of his best. It's probably my number 3 or 4. It's a true fairy tale. It's a true collection of fairy tales. Basically, it's got a great cast of actors I wouldn't expect in a Tim Burton movie. You got Ewan McGregor, you got Billy Crudup, Steve Buscemi, reteams with Danny DeVito and Helena Bonham Carter, Albert Finney, and introduced us to Marion Cotillard and a couple of other actors. It's really good, great visuals, and it's based off a book, but he makes it his own. I haven't read the book. I need to wait for you guys to see it so I can really dive into it. It's a great movie for me. It's a 4 out of 4.
okay.
Speaking of movies that get shit on, so everyone loves Willy Wonka, rightfully so.
Who doesn't?
If you don't like the original Willy Wonka, there's something wrong with you. You're dead inside. So when Tim Burton said he was going to do a remake, I supported it. I think he was the perfect choice to do a remake. Now, when you look at who was supposed to play Willy Wonka, do you guys know some of the other casting suggestions?
Who?
Edward Norton.
Edward Norton?
He was one. Jim Carrey. Adam Sandler.
Huh.
And Nicolas Cage. I would have loved to see Nicolas Cage Willy Wonka.
I can only imagine that.
So he goes to a safe pick with Johnny Depp. And
Again.
now, I think you have to talk about this movie and talk about the original. Because I don't think you can judge this without talking about it. For me,
It's hard.
I think it's a good movie. I don't think it deserves all the hatred that I hear from people. I think it's like the first third of this movie I love. I love the world that they create. I think some of the change, it's a lot closer to the book, which I liked. I respected that choice. It's a little bit darker in tone overall. It doesn't have these ups and downs that the Gene Wilder one does. This one, it's more downbeat for the most part, but it does have some very good scenes. The movie takes a downhill turn for me when Johnny Depp shows up. I think it's my least favorite collaboration as far as the performance goes, because I know everyone makes this joke, but he's Michael Jackson. He is. He plays it like a child molester. If you look at Gene Wilder's performance, he plays it as a guy with bipolar disorder who doesn't like kids. This, it's all over the place. I do think all the kid actors I like, with the exception of Freddie Highmore. I think he's just a bland kid. Although, to be fair, Peter Ostrom in the original isn't exactly a dynamic character. I like the factory look. I like the set design. Danny Elfman's score once again. Take a drink.
Yeah, that's a drinking game. Podcast.
I like how it's closer to the book. I like the subplot with Willy Wonka and his father, played by Christopher Lee. For something that was not in the book, I think that worked. And it's interesting because the first one is Charlie's story. This one is Willy Wonka's story.
And ironically, the original is called Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and this new one is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
So all in all, I think it's good, but Johnny Depp, I don't know what this is. I think this is his worst performance. I honestly do. It just doesn't work for me. Maybe I'm too attached to Gene Wilder, but for me, it doesn't work. I'll give it a 2.5 out of 4 because the kids are really good and the visuals, and it's different enough to where I look at it as its own thing. Now all the people are going to start commenting on our thread saying, "How dare you?"
They're going to say the same thing for me, too, because I'm right there with you, Matt. I think this movie is not as bad as everyone says it is. I agree with the thing about Johnny Depp. I'll say it's creepy. That's all. But, Burns, what?
Pedophile.
Yeah, you think? Because, wait, did you say that Gene Wilder was the guy with bipolar disorder? He doesn't like kids?
Yeah, he was.
No, I think it's the opposite. I think Depp's the one who doesn't like him. Like, when he first appears, like, Augustus Gloop says, "Don't you want to know our names?" And Depp just goes, "I don't think it would matter." And I'm just like,
I'm not a Beauregard. I don't care.
You want one of them to run your factory, so maybe you should know them.
He has such disdain for the kids in this movie.
Yeah, I
don't think Gene Wilder liked kids because there's that scene where he freaks out at the end, and
Well,
he doesn't
that's-
seem to have much of an attachment to the kids. Anyway, let's not.
Honestly, no, I never thought that Gene Wilder disliked them. Like, well, I guess until you get to the end where he goes crazy, you lose. Good
day, sir.
But yes, exactly. Everything you said that was good about the film, I agree. I give it a 4 out of 5. I mean, I saw this film when I was a kid, so this one I think I do look fondly back on.
My positives are pretty much the same as you guys, although my negatives are a bit different. I actually liked Johnny Depp's performance. My issues are more with the plot and the structure. I felt like in the end, they tie up the father story in the end well, but in the middle, the flashbacks like feel really awkwardly shoved in there.
True.
It's like the movie just suddenly stops and then flashback, you know, and it really chops up the pacing and breaks
Like
the momentum a lot.
Depp even acknowledges, like, I'm sorry, I was having a flashback. And I think Veruca Salt's father just goes, I see.
Yeah. Supporting cast is really good. I didn't like the Oompa Loompas in this. I thought the songs were really bland.
Yeah, that was something I forgot to mention.
Yeah, none of them are particularly memorable. I think actually,
Except one.
which one?
The one that the animatronics sing at the beginning. Before Johnny Depp shows up.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It's memorable, but for the wrong reasons.
Actually, I like the Augustus Gloop song, but all the ones after that, I can't remember anything.
Like the
So,
TV
really.
80s rock homage.
I do kind of like how they were, like, each song that the Oompa Loompas sang after all the kids went through the accidents. I like that it was different for each thing. Like, Augustus Gloop, like, I think he said, like, 50s something.
Yeah, it's like 50s.
Yeah.
Violet's like a disco song. Veruca's like a hippie song. And then the Mike TV one, which I think is the best, is the 80s rock homage.
Odd
Yeah.
rock.
With a psycho homage.
Yes.
I did like how they went back for the Veruca Salt sequence. I liked how they went back to the squirrels
I
because
think squirrels work better.
the geese thing really didn't have any like conflict in the first.
Except for the one
original
line.
movie.
She was a bad egg.
And I think here's the thing. The reason why I liked Johnny Depp's performance is because he's on a similar, not similar approach, but similar, like, I'm trying to think how to word this, wavelength as Gene Wilder, because they both don't feel like, they both don't really like the kids. They're both just kind of going through it at their own world, like, just kind of giving them the tour, but never really connecting with them. But I really liked how Depp was able to differentiate his version here as Michael Jackson-y as it does.
He looks like a cross between Kate Blanchett from Indiana Jones 4 and Marilyn Manson.
That's
Marilyn
perfect.
Manson?
The hair is right out of Kate Blanchett. And I thought he was really funny, actually.
I can't remember one funny thing that he says.
No, it's just his general demeanor. Like that.
I just thought it was so
found
eccentric
it-
till it didn't work for me. And I felt like there were actors he could have used. Like, I thought Helena Bonham Carter was wasted.
Yeah, that's right. She's really only in, like, the beginning and the very end.
Well, she was filming something else at the time.
Yeah. At the end, I'm at the same where you're at. I'm at 2.5 out of 4. Just different criticisms.
I will say, I like how in this one Wonka specifically says he was looking for kids to run the factory. That was one thing in the 70s one that didn't make a lot of sense to me. I like the segment with the Indian prince in the chocolate house.
Well, I'm sorry.
I like how they finally got the design of a gobstopper right. Because in the
those
original...
Gobstoppers were cool in the original movie.
Yeah, but they don't look edible.
They were...
Paperweights.
They look like...
They
they look like
you'd
atoms.
take a bite and it would jab into your mouth.
Yeah. And I kind of like... I wish Grandpa Joe had a little more personality. But Missy Pyle makes up for it.
Yeah.
I think she's my favorite of the parents. Because she's like that stereotypical
like the
soccer mom.
How they handle. I do like how they handle Violet's story. Like she's like when obsessed.
But yeah, certainly not as bad as it's made out to be.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
enjoyable.
Like for people to call it one of the worst remakes of all time, I think that's pushing it.
It's because it's so different that it's hard for them to separate it.
I look at that as a good thing though, because if they made a straight carbon copy of the original, then I would call it out.
Yeah, it would just been uninspired and bland. And Tim Burton, when he gets his creative juices going, I wouldn't call him uninspired.
What's next?
Corpse Bride.
Haven't seen it.
Nope.
Okay, I guess I'm lone one on this. In many ways, this is very much a typical Tim Burton movie. You know, curved, angular production design.
Look who's
Johnny
cast
Depp
in
performance.
it. Look who the two leads are.
Helena Bonham Carter, I believe, again, Danny Elfman. Stop motion, in this case. This time he's actually doing the stop motion, not Henry Selick. It's also like Nightmare Before Christmas, only 75 minutes. Unlike Nightmare Before Christmas, because Nightmare Before Christmas, that's a perfect length. Great pacing. Characters are well developed in that time. I think in this case, the movie feels slight because of that. It could have used an extra 10 minutes, maybe. And the story and the old, like, it feels familiar. Like, you know, it feels like in some ways Burton is resting on his laurels a bit. But I think the relationship between Depp and Carter's characters is enough to make up for that. And it has a surprising amount of emotional resonance at the end when it comes to her character. So because of that, it's able to overcome the almost. This is where his style is starting to become a cliche, really.
Yeah, just started judging on the trailers. I was like, this doesn't look.
Yeah,
it doesn't look unique.
You might be surprised. It's definitely cliche Burton, but I think the story and the relationship they have, especially on Carter's end, is enough to make up for that. I would give it because of that, it has a lot of heart to make up for it, which is lacking in Tim Burton's lesser movies. So I would give it a 3 out of 4. I'm going to make a guess here.
You'd be right.
That your favorite is this next one.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Well, knowing me, you shouldn't be shocked.
Oh, yeah, musical guy.
Sweeney Todd, the movie that Tim Burton was born to direct. I love the musical, but for me, this is right up there with Les Mis as my favorite one that was a direct adaptation from Broadway. I love this movie. And because this is one that none of the actors were professional singers. And I think this is my favorite Johnny Depp performance, period. For a guy who I wouldn't expect to sing, he has the right vocal range. He does really good work with the songs. I think the chemistry between him and Helena Bonham Carter is at its best here. And she can also really sing, which surprised me. And no shock that both her and Sacha Baron Cohen were in Les Mis. Speaking of which, Sacha Baron Cohen owns the movie for a good 10 minutes. His song, I thought someone kicked him in the balls. He was singing so high. They should have called this movie Harry Potter and the Demon Barber of Fleet Street because half the cast was from Harry Potter.
I was going to say, we even get the pleasure of seeing Snape and Pettigrew sing songs.
Look at this. You got Snape, Pettigrew, Bellatrix, and Grimwald. 4 of the 6 key roles are from Harry Potter. And it was weird at first, but Alan Rickman grew on me. Because I forgot how well he plays sleazy and authority figures, aside from Snape. Like, to me, he echoed Hans Gruber a little.
That didn't just.
And I gotta say, his singing was actually pretty good. I mean, he's got such a deep voice to where he doesn't have much of a range, but another great thing with a musical is that you have the tendency sometimes to make it run too long. Burton and Sondheim, they were very smart to cut down some of the songs so that way you don't get bored with them. And
John Logan.
And they got right back to the talking. The songs are used to enhance the narrative. With a musical like this, you have to do that. It's not like Les Mis, where you can get away with the whole thing being sung. Here, you needed a break. And the only issue I have with the movie is Timothy Spall has one song, and it felt really awkward because it's like, all right, Tim, you got to sing now. And he's like, what? I'm not supposed to sing. And they're like, well, you're going to have to sing. And he's like, ugh. I love all the songs in this movie. And the blood is very theatrical, and I think that works. Especially when, spoiler alert, when Johnny Depp stabs the shit out of Alan Rickman. I saw tons and tons of red paint just flying everywhere. And the visual look of this is excellent. The Burton really captures a very dark version of London. It's a fantastic movie. I was very happy Depp received the Best Actor award nomination, although he wasn't beating Daniel Day-Lewis. I thought Helena Bonham Carter could have gotten a little more recognition, and Alan Rickman was robbed of an Oscar snub again. What a shock. But 4 out of 4 for me. It's a great musical, one of the best in recent memory. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Even if you don't like musicals, but you like Tim Burton, there's something for you to like in here. And it's not for the squeamish.
I think, though, I'm not sure, like, see, it's definitely not for people who don't like blood, but I think the movie is not as extreme because it uses that 70s style, like, red-orange blood.
It's like a hammer blood.
Yeah, that kind of hammer blood, that blood that's hyper-real. It's not, like, grisly and realistic. This is clearly a very, very bizarre, dark cartoon slasher movie. It's...
How you got to trust a barber who can't cut his own hair?
What? It has a horror atmosphere, but it's not really a horror movie. It's more of a black comedy musical, which...
With,
how many movies can you say are that kind of movie, really?
One of Burton's best endings, too. Even though it's borrowed from the musical, it's kind of downbeat. I'm not going to spoil it, but you won't. If you haven't seen the musical, you won't see it coming.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much everything you said. Johnny Depp's fantastic. Carter too. Rickman also. Cohen is hysterical in his couple scenes. I remember thinking that one, like, it was like almost like a dream musical number where Mrs. Lovett is singing about the, like, it's
by the sea? Is it by the sea?
Yeah, where they're by the beach and under the tree. It felt like it kind of stopped the movie a bit.
Well, it's in the musical. It's to give a break to set up the shocking ending.
It does, yeah. It does stand out because it's much different from the rest of it, which I'll give it that credit. And great songs, great singing, especially from Depp, who had a big question mark on my head as I was going into it, wondering if he can sing. But he exceeded expectations with that.
I just want to see him in the Jack Sparrow makeup warming up. Because apparently he was working on this while he was shooting the 2 pirate sequels.
Yeah. Well, you can clearly see his heart was a little bit more in this one than those movies. I'd give it a 3.5 out of 4.
Sean, you haven't seen it, right?
No, but do you have this movie on DVD?
I have it on Blu-ray.
Well, just like just like Sleepy Hollow, I'll come over and watch it.
We'll do a Burton We'll do a Burton commentary eventually.
Double feature.
Riff tracks for maybe a Batman Returns. I don't know.
Oh, we could do riff tracks for Forever because he was a producer for that.
But I don't know. I think because Doug Walker did that already. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe not.
Is Alice in Wonderland next?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh boy,
I'm not looking forward to
I gotta
this.
say, this is a tough one for me to talk about. It's
for me recently.
I don't think it's his worst. I think Dark Shadows, for the record, is his worst. But this is a huge disappointment. Mostly because Tim Burton, his movies, a lot of them don't have a lot of focus. And Lewis Carroll's book doesn't have focus either. And when you give it to a director like that, it's a perfect excuse to use style over substance. Although I love the style of this movie. And Helena Bonham Carter carries the movie on her shoulders. Because she took a role that could have been very one-dimensional. And adds a lot to it. And I love Stephen Fry as the Cheshire Cat, Alan Rickman as the Caterpillar, and Mia Wasikowska. I liked her a lot as Alice, but the movie has some problems. The big one is Johnny Depp, who annoys the hell out of me in this movie. His Mad Hatter, it's so eccentric and so over the top that it's grating after a while. And Anne Hathaway's just there to play Glenda the Good Witch. Doesn't get much to do. And there's a lot of... The movie doesn't have a lot of focus. Like, the story's very typical. But I don't know what else to say. I give it a 2 out of 4. This movie... I feel like if this went to someone else, it could have been a lot better. But for what it is, I can sit through it solely for the visuals. And Helena Bonham Carter, she electrifies the screen. Especially with the Did You Steal My Tarts? The tension in that theater. I have never heard so much tension for cartoon frogs.
With the frogs, yeah.
Off with his head!
It's like,
yeah, sorry.
go ahead.
Well, with me, like I said before, like recently, this is not what I'm looking forward to. I wasn't looking forward to talking to, because 3 years later, I think a much better film from Disney was very similar to this, Oz Green and Powerful, came out, and I'm just gonna say it right now, that film 100 times better than this film.
Oh, Sam Raimi could have done this.
No, maybe.
With Bruce Campbell playing the Mad Hatter.
Yeah, that'd be cool. But honestly, Helena Bonham Carter is great. I wasn't big on Johnny Depp, or actually neither. I'm gonna massacre her name.
Just call her Mia.
Yeah, the main Mia. I wasn't really interested in her as Alice, and I'm only gonna give it like a 2.5 out of 5.
Yeah, the problem with Alice in Wonderland is the thing is when you just look at it on paper, you see Alice in Wonderland and Tim Burton, and you think, well, of course. But that's also the problem, because it goes a little bit back to where I was starting to talk about with Corpse Bride, where this feels like Tim Burton on autopilot. It feels like his style is obligatory, and it doesn't feel like it feels like he has to do it because it's appropriate, not because he has like a real like creative energy flowing through it, which also extends to the fact that take just pretty much a scattered story to begin with, which is really where most of its charm comes from. The fact that it's just these series of vignettes, just going around, seeing all these characters, being introduced to them, exploring the world, and you just give it a generic, you pretty much just scotch tape a generic fantasy plot onto it. By the end of it, it just turns into
breakdancing.
It turns into before we get to that, it just turns into a bland Lord of the Rings with Alice in Wonderland skin on top of it, pretty much, down to the fact that there's a dragon that has to be slayed with sword and you know what? It turns into Sleeping Beauty is what it turns into, with the sword and a dragon, and kill it right there. Christopher Lee is wasted as the dragon. That breakdancing is risible, to say the least.
Yeah, I question the usage of it.
It comes out of nowhere.
And it takes me out of the movie. I'm like, this should have been on the blooper reel.
Yeah, it does seem like something that they would put on the blooper reel. And because I remember when I saw it the first time, I really liked it. I must have been on an Alice in Wonderland high or something. I was like, I rewatched the original Disney movie. I was looking into more of like the back history of Lewis Carroll and his inspirations for writing it, aside from just shrooms.
Opium.
So I guess when I saw it, I was like, I was in the zone. I was ready to see Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland. I was really excited, and it's a movie that just fades from you over time. Now I watched it again, like, I don't know, a year later, and it was still enjoyable, but not as special. and as it keeps going on, keeps being forgettable.
I've only seen
really.
it the one time when it was in the theater.
Yeah, I've only seen it about twice too, but because of that, and also because I think Mia Wasikowska has certainly become a very accomplished actress after this. I think she's really bland here. Alice has never really been a very interesting character.
Because she's just the window to see all these other characters.
Yeah, she's really a cipher. But the problem with that is in the original story, because it's a series of vignettes, we feel like we can just follow along and explore with her. But because this one is trying to make it, her journey and her character arc, that's where the issues come in, because we're supposed to feel connected with her, but we don't. And because of that, and also because, well, Wonderland is fantastically visualized. A lot of the creature effects feel really shoddy, especially that giant. It's not a
Jabberwocky?
lion, but it's some kind of big boar thing that chases her through the forest.
Oh, the white one. The one that was guarding the sword?
Yeah, that had some really wonky CGI on it.
I do have to say, though, I love the white rabbit.
Yeah.
The March
Michael
hare.
Sheen.
I love the March hare.
Yeah.
I think they got some really top-notch vocal talents, though. Like, you got
Mm-hmm.
Michael Sheen, Alan Rickman, Imelda Staunton, Timothy Spall, Crispin Glover.
That's right. There's someone else. There's a voice. Yeah, I can't find it.
Stephen Fry. Stephen Fry is fantastic.
Yes. And at least they get my favorite thing about Alice in Wonderland right, the Cheshire Cat. At least they gave me that.
I love the look. I love the look of the cat.
Mm-hmm.
But I think
Even
if you took Helena Bonham Carter out of this movie, I think it would have. I would not like it.
Imploded. Yeah.
It would not have made about $1 billion at the box office, which I don't get.
It made $1 billion.
Yes, it
Yes.
Oh my god!
did. Yeah, and really?
Was there nothing
Yes,
else out?
Well, it was March of 2010, so
Well, it
makes
was
sense.
Disney and Tim Burton, so I figured,
But
Jesus.
yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm like, really, $1 billion?
What's next?
I give it a 2 out of 4. It's your not so favorite one.
Yep.
So we got Dark Shadows. As someone who really likes the TV show, this movie sucks.
Yeah.
First of all, Johnny Depp. This is at the point I'm sick of Johnny Depp now. I wish he'd start playing actual characters and not caricatures. There's a difference between the two. I think his best, Sweeney Todd, is an exception. Jack Sparrow is an exception, although Jack Sparrow has run its course by this point. In this, he's playing a mix of Jack Sparrow and Sweeney Todd, and it doesn't work. Once again, Tim Burton wastes a lot of really good talent. You got Eva Green, Johnny Lee Miller, Helena Bonham Carter, who was only here to set up a sequel. I give credit to Michelle Pfeiffer because she looked like she was trying. Jackie Earle Haley, Chloe Grace Moretz. The problem is, I said Johnny Lee Miller. He was
Sorry.
He was my big one because, as everyone knows, I love Trainspotting and Elementary is really good. But the movie has no focus. They don't focus on Barnabas interacting with his family, which is what the TV show got right. It was just an excuse to make really bad jokes about the 70s. The only part I laugh at is with the TV. What
Tiny
sorcery is
songstress.
this? Come out, tiny songstress.
Release yourself, tiny songstress.
Or are you stoned? They tried stoning me once. It's just, it's very bland. I felt really bad for the actors. 1.5 out of 4. It's just Johnny Depp and Tim Burton. Guys, split off.
Or if you do something again, actually do something that's not what you've done before.
Aside from Sweeney Todd, I can't remember the last time Johnny Depp gave a great performance. Since then.
Yeah. Oh, okay, that's right. His most recent and last one is Frankenweenie, which was released the same year as Dark Shadows.
I didn't see this one either. So
Me neither.
I saw the short. I saw the short he did.
Okay, I still haven't seen the short. I need to see that. Wait, so am I the only one who's seen it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Just touch on it real quick.
Okay, it's actually pretty much everything I said about Corpse Bride. You can just latch onto this one. It like literally same thing I said. It's got a lot of heart. I mean, a boy and his dog stories are tried and true, and this one is no exception. It works very well. Like I said about Corpse Bride, it feels like safe Tim Burton. Like, it's what we expect of him. Kooky character designs, dark humor. The humor doesn't always hit in this one, but the ending of it goes bonkers crazy, and it's a sight to behold. Because of that, and because of the safeness of it, I give it a 3 out of 4, and because of the hit or miss humor. But it's hard not to get a little emotional when his dog gets killed in the beginning of the movie. And
Wait, the dog gets killed?
Well, yeah, he's a.
No, I know. I thought it died of old age or something.
Goes.
No, he gets hit by a car at the beginning of the movie.
Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been a dog person, but it surprisingly hit really hard. There's a lot of really funny Frankenstein references, of course. There's a great one, which I'm sure you saw in the trailer.
The Bride of Frankenstein bit with the dog.
Yeah.
That I love. I think I love that. You got Martin Landau as the teacher.
I'm trying to think. That's right. The main character, Victor's science teacher, is played by Martin Landau.
Yeah.
And he was a definite highlight of it. Just this really weird guy who all the kids just kind of shy away from, but Victor's really interested in because he just has so many crazy ideas, and he's a lot of fun. So yeah, 3 out of 4. Nothing too special, but it's very enjoyable.
All right. So to kind of wrap this up, why don't we give our top 3 or 4, and then our least favorite? I will say Sweeney Todd, Ed Wood, Sleepy Hollow, and Edward Scissorhands are my 4 favorites. And then my least favorite is Dark Shadows.
And my favorite is Edward. Followed by Edward Scissorhands, then Sweeney Todd, then Beetlejuice. Bottom one, I guess I'd have to say Planet of the Apes, although I haven't seen Dark Shadows. So, yeah, right now it's Planet of the Apes.
And as for me, my top 3 in no order are Beetlejuice, Batman, and Ed Wood. My least favorite, I think, would have to be Alice in Wonderland.
Okay.